This episode of the BREWtallyspeaking podcast is brought to you by On Point Pomade. Keep your beard and hair looking on point with their line of pomades and beard oils over at onpointpomade.com. Use our code BSP15 at checkout and get 15% off your total purchase order. So thanks again to On Point Pomade for sponsoring our show. This episode is also sponsored by the Bean Bastard Coffee. Head over to thebeanbastard.com and pick up any one of their delicious hand-roasted coffees. Coffee lovers will also enjoy their hand-cut and handmade espresso candles and soaps as well. If you're in the Buffalo, New York area, head to their store located at 448 Elmwood Avenue. And thanks again to the Bean Bastard for supporting this show. The Speaking podcast is proudly sponsored by Rockabilia.com. With over 500,000 officially licensed items in their online store, you're guaranteed to find something you need. Use our code BREWtally and get 10% off your total purchase order. Now on to the show. What is up, everybody? Hope you are having a great post-Thanksgiving as of when you're hearing this. This is another episode of the BREWtallyspeaking podcast, and I am your host, John. And this episode's guest is Jamie Madrox of Twiztid. They have a new album out already called Unlikely Prescription. But we don't really necessarily talk a ton about that. We kind of hit on it a little bit at the end, but this is more kind of just a fun conversation, as they always are now with everybody I have on. It's not a traditional, like, well, so tell me about the new record and blah, blah, blah. This kind of starts out with us kind of shooting the shit, talking about Astronomicon, how they've kind of moved things, how they're always kind of pivoting and kind of just, talking about business and having a good business acumen and how to grow your brand, grow your business, and how you can do it while not fucking anyone over. It's one of those where, the genesis kind of some of this conversation really started back with the King Gordy episode I had done, which I can say that now. I know who I talked to. I know what the fuck we said. Unfortunately, at the time, I was drawing a blank, and I'm like, the other dude with Bizarre and fucking Lars. But yes, the King Gordy episode really kind of set the foundation for some of the talking points in this episode, and just kind of my love and of Twiztid and what they do, and even correlating to what ICP has been doing and what they've been doing on their own with Psychopathic Records and just their own career as well. But it's one of those where I was listening to Doc Coyle podcast, the X-Man podcast with Dan Sugarman of Ice Nine Kills and a slew of other bands. And it's funny that I'm doing this episode and I just listened to that episode, and there's actually a correlation between the two where, Dan and Doc were talking about, the success of having to be a musician and the success that you have, and also being content creators and being more than just a skilled musician who knows how to write good songs. It takes so much more. And you really have to be business minded now. And it was one of those things where Dan had kind of made a comment about, he listens to other business podcasts and stuff like that. And even with talking with, Spencer, who has done actually a song on the new Twiztid record, and that was a big advocate for the band when they both played Warped Tour. It was one of those things where Dan was talking about, he learned a lot of what was successful for Spencer and for Ice Nine when he kind of got into the fold of that band. And that, he says that successful people leave breadcrumbs of paths to their success. And I think what's really interesting about that is I definitely think that was something that Jamie and the guys did is, when they were on Psychopathic, I think they saw what the ICP Camp was doing, Violent J and Shaggy Two Dope, what they were doing with their business and kind of just hustling and wanting to be hungry and always, trying to take that next step to be successful and surrounding themselves with successful people. I mean, one of the things I thought was really fun and interesting when talking to Jamie was, he's like, I know how to do so much, but then I need people who are better at that, and I need to address those things. And, you just need to build a team, and then you kind of divide and conquer, and whatever you're great at, you stay successful and you stay doing that thing. But sometimes it takes knowing what your limitations are. And it's definitely something after this conversation, I just walked away feeling so invigorated and just feeling so positive. And I don't think you can talk to Jamie and not feel that way. He exudes, positivity. You can hear the excitement in his voice and all that kind of stuff. And I fucking love talking to people like that. So without further ado, though, let's get into my conversation with Jamie Madrox, and I'll talk to you all on the other side of it. Well, it's long enough that I can finally do this, so cracking open the new Deftones beer.
Oh, damn.
Since it's a ceremony of 20 years of your career at this point, and a handful of interviews today, and I want one.
Yeah, I feel it. Very fresh. I appreciate that.
That actually might be my new favorite out of the Deftones beers that they've had.
That's interesting. You say beers plural, like there's many to pick from?
So literally, like, I know it's not like super in focus, but okay, literally what's on my fingers, the Charles Woodson whiskey that I had him sign. But up here, I collect 2 of every Deftones beer to save.
Oh, damn.
So I think this is the 5th that they've done, or 6th. They did one for their festival that you can't get it if you never were at the festival.
Wow.
And then they work with this Belching Beaver brewing company, and they have released typically 1 or 2 every year. They kind of do them seasonally. So this is the latest one. They did one for just straight up Ohms, like it's the Ohms album cover. And then this one is in anniversary of, like, I think the 1 year of, Ohms being out, and it's titled after their song Ceremony. And typically they are named after songs. So like they had one that was like a brown ale that was called Good Morning Beautiful off of the self-titled record. They had Digital Bath, which was more of a hazy IPA, obviously off of White Pony. A few other ones, but yeah. So this is one of the few that I've gotten to have now that I got a plug somewhere where I can get them sent to me, because here in Michigan they don't have distribution, so I have to cop that shit on the low.
Yeah, hell yeah. Got that shit in the mail is what you got. Right.
Yeah, $20 flat. You send one of those media boxes that just costs a flat rate, and you just say it's you could say they're seltzers, or I've even said that I had canned pickles that I was sending.
Nice. I appreciate your tactics. That's awesome.
It's almost like anything. Like, when you were, not you specifically, but, us as music fans, when we would even have to try to, when you wanted something, an album per se, and maybe you couldn't get it, you found a way or found somebody to send you the fucking album, the days of tape trading and so forth. And all those. Absolutely. So, really, it's just the same thing. It's just something you can enjoy a little more tactfully.
We were economical kids. We would buy, I would buy a copy of a record. Paul would buy something different. Brian would buy something different. And then we would all trade up the cassettes and shit, so we could, experience the other thing all for one value.
That is so smart. I fucked over BMG or Colombia House or whatever, and I would say that I was my neighbors or whatever, and I would never pay for the other records.
11 or 12 CDs for a penny, or 11 cents at one point. It was just that was a crazy, wild. I don't know. What was it? Was it a pyramid scheme? Like, I don't necessarily know what it was, but it was definitely weird. Well, and nobody talks about it anymore.
Well, I've never talked about this really, but let's think about the economics of that from an artist perspective. So, gone are kind of the days of albums shipping, platinum, gold, whatever.
For sure.
would that kind of be part of the quote unquote scheme to ship something so it would falsify the first week numbers or whatever? Because I would assume with them kind of being a quote unquote wholesaler, that's the only reason they were able to sell those things for such a large cost.
I would always, I mean, I don't know why I thought this, and I don't know why I still kind of do think this, that I just think that it was some sort of, I don't want to say a promotional thing, but I want to say that somebody got paid for those CDs. And I think that somebody ended up like writing it off as part of I don't know, nowadays you'd call it a BOGO, buy one, get one, or something like that. But it would have been like an 11 go or something. You buy one and you got 10 free. It was just like, it was crazy. But the idea was, I think, to lock you in to a contractual obligation where you would buy them then for like $13 or $14, where them 11, they'll eat them for the fucking $900 they got you locked in and betrothed to. So there was man. They were smart at a young age.
I don't think this one lasted nearly as long, but I mean, you want to talk about getting fucked on a contract when the VHSs were the thing, when you could do it with VHSs. I mean, do you remember when Blockbuster, it never happened to me, but I do, like, them shits, if you lost the tape, they would be like, oh, that's $400 for this cassette. And you're like, how the fuck does this VHS cost $400? Like, because I think they would,
absolutely stack all the late charges on you, and then of course, because it was their their template copy, of course. You know, I forgot to bring back Halloween 2, and now you're right, it's like $79. They're like, where? Not real, not even in the movie theater. I can't even get the actual film print for that price. Like, what the hell? So yeah.
Well, I think they used to call it theoretical money.
The customer.
Well, I mean, I think that's also. I think to a bigger question, though, is I wonder how antiquated the contracts were for bands probably getting fucked out of those CDs going to whatever. Because I mean, like I said,
in my mind, they didn't have shit to do with them. In my mind, it was all a record company thing. You know, whatever it was, Columbia or what have you, was just like, yep, pick these artists and we'll drop them to you. Whatever, you know what I mean? Or whatever the case may be. That's at least how I want to believe it. Like, I don't think it mattered to those people. They were like, oh, that's cool, we're offered them that. You know what I mean? Like, there's no sweat out. They don't give a shit. It's not until you're hands-on that you actually give shits about things like that. And it's when at least that's my perspective.
It does make me wonder if they could curate something similar, not be as nefarious with the business model, but where maybe you could, for, we'll say, $20, some label, some person, some entity curates, like, here's a little collection of a jazz record, a hip-hop record, or whatever, and for $20 we're going to blindly send you something, and like maybe treat it like some of the, like, I think my wife has something called Roxbox, where they send jewelry, and then if she likes some of it, then here's what it would cost to buy that, or whatever you don't want, send it back. Do something like that with music. Wow. Like, maybe, like, where it's like, okay, cool, like, here's a little bit of everything. If you like something, you fucking keep it. If not, send it back.
That's interesting. I would think, that seems like that could be applied to a now type of idea. Like, maybe a randomizer sends you links to, you know, fill in the blank due to your specifications of what you check the boxes that you like. And it's something new and interesting to you that you hopefully have never heard of before. And if you should like it, then the album option to purchase would be there. That's interesting. Record companies, if you're listening, we're talking about ground-changing things right now. It's going to make everybody a lot of money. Everybody likes to make money.
I also feel like you could kind of do it with, like, up-and-coming bands, maybe. Almost like what the compilation used to be for us, like, back in the day, where you would find new bands that way.
Absolutely, and it would be something that people would want to be in, such as like a DJ pool or something like that. How you would submit your records to be hopefully included in said box of the month or said pick of the month or whatever, to try to be featured as one of those bands, to have your opportunity. Because I guess that's what it's mostly all about, is opportunities in the game. It's like, how do I get to the crowd? Is it by, you know, the airwaves, the stage, like social media? Like, there's ways to get to people and potential listeners. But that's interesting though. That would be a great idea.
Well, I think, like, part of it sort of is just kind of a thirst for finding ways to, I guess it almost goes back to when I used to book shows, and I book shows because I got tired of people being like, there's no fucking good bands. And you're like, no, there are. Like, you kind of have to, you got to be a participant in some capacity. Yeah. So like, I would be like, cool, I'll start booking bands and such, and kind of sort of parlayed into this, like where it's like when I started this, I had some connects to be like, hey, do you want to do my bullshit show? But I mean, you even look at something like, I think Atlanta's got a really interesting vibe where you go to Magic City, and like I know on Mondays they do New Music Mondays, like where they will literally break new artists there. But I mean, the fact that you can look at something like Magic City, which for those that may not know what it is, it's a strip club, one of the most famous strip clubs in Atlanta, and people like Future and stuff like that, like the new, and I mean, even going back further than that, you know, the hip hop scene of Atlanta grew from, you know, Magic City, and a lot of the clubs like it. And the fact that, you know, the few times I've been there, I may know one song in the few hours I'm there, but like there are people who know all these songs, know the part where when the DJ drops the fucking beat, they'll fucking yell the hook or whatever, and you're like, and then money just fucking rains, and you're like I feel like I'm so out of the loop on some shit, but I also have then the desire to be like, all right, I need to know who the fuck these are, because like this is the shit that's gonna pop off in like these artists in a year or two that we're all then going to know about, but like they know about it now. And so to me, like, just this weird ancillary avenue where some people would be like, strip club, fuck it, play, you know, do Host and some Rob Zombie and some other classic rock, and you're good. And it's like, no, like they're kind of taking it a step further and realizing that they can elevate their own local scene or the scene as a whole by having this ancillary medium of bringing in new music and new talent. And I think it's a different approach and an interesting idea. And I mean, that place is always fucking packed every time.
That's crazy. Yeah, absolutely. Like whatever the platform is to get that exposure, you know what I mean? Or get into those potential ears or potential listeners, however to get at them. So yeah, no, that obviously in providing a nice atmosphere in which to listen to it in, I suppose, given the said surrounding. But yeah, you know, which is cool though. It adds to the ambiance. It's a little above my pay grade. I'd more take my money and drop it in the soup kitchen. Just like, come on, man. You know, but to each his own. I get it. I hear it. But yeah, for real though, man. It's a vibe. It's a vibe that like in this game, in this industry, it's like really, really hard to get out there. It's so easy to say, oh, well, social media, just go at it, go after it. You know what I mean? But in the perspective of things, it is about your perspective. And if you're trying to get in where everybody's at, it's really hard to do. It's not as easy as they would make it out because people want maximum results in minimal time. And that is the problem. That's your first fuck up. That's your first fuck up. Like wanting everything quickly, because nothing comes to those who are quickly, man. When the shit comes quick, it builds ego. When it comes slow, it builds longevity and stature.
Well, I mean, that's a great talking point of the new record. But I mean, I don't necessarily want to talk about the record right away, but I think what you're saying, like, I mean, you guys are, you know, 20, I'll at least say that I know of 20 years into the career. It might even be another couple of years before that, before anyone knew who you were. So we might be looking at almost 25 years of the 5-year grind. And then the quote unquote, I made it, which is really the beginning of the new grind of like climbing the ladder and so forth.
Aspiring for the next level, for sure, man. It's a staircase. Every stair you get up, you look at more, and you're like, you want to continue walking or you want to just sit down and celebrate. You know what I mean? It's like I'm not so much a celebrating kind. We can celebrate and sleep when we're dead and all that other shit. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, it's I think that it's like the more hard you work at something, the more beneficial it is, and the more awesome it is to celebrate it when those things happen. Not in the let's throw a party, but in a wow, dude, it actually hit, and keep moving, keep more of that, keep doing it. You know what I mean? It's like it's the real time reaction, I think, which is really cool.
Well, I mean, I think something that's always been interesting about you guys, and I'm not going to necessarily mention where a lot of your career started from with the group and the label and so forth, but it's hard not to see, like, I think you're one of the few that really took, actually for reference I have to mention them, but like, it's hard not to see what you guys did with when you were on Psychopathic and ICP and seeing what they built and the foundation they built. But you're one of the few that basically saw the inner workings and saw how all that shit worked, and then go, yeah, we want it that bad too. Let's go fucking do our own thing, and have not only started your own label, started your own brand, still continuing your career, nursing other people's careers, but then you're now even diversifying into, you finally got to, the year might be wrong, but I think this is your 4th Astronomicon you just did.
Yep, absolutely.
And so, I mean, it's one of those where you diversified yourselves again, your portfolio, for lack of a better term, into doing something else. And, having gone to, I think I went to the first one, the Astronomicon, because I live here in Michigan. So I was really bummed that I couldn't make it to the one in Ann Arbor because, go blue. But it seems like, you were able to do something where even in the midst of a pandemic, you guys once again showcased your ability to think on your feet, pivot, find a way to still make it work for the fans, for the entertainers who are coming, for yourselves, for the city, still keep it local. A lot of times you see people kind of abandon their roots, and you totally could have been like, all right, well, Michigan's basically still kind of on a lockdown. Fuck it. We're going to go to Florida. Like,
this is where we live. It's fun to have Astronomicon, quote unquote, in our backyard in Michigan, because it makes it more central, where it's easier for us to get a lot of things from our headquarters, so to speak, make it sound like a superhero team, from our headquarters to the venue where Astro is or whatever. This year was Ann Arbor, but and as far as the other stuff, it's like everybody from where we came from with Psychopathic, a lot of people got those same opportunities as Paul and I did. A lot of people were given pushes, a lot of people were given opportunities in which to grow and shine. And I think, because I can't speak to anybody else's story, I can only speak about my own. But I know every chance that we got, we went for ours. We made sure that we learned from the losses and figured out why we won when we did win, and keep pushing and tried to learn to build our own so that we could one day be where we are. And again, how we're building things now to one day, hopefully to the right in the time machine, be sitting in a different position in my life because I was doing things now for that. You know what I mean? It's been a process. It's been a growing process. But I think that if you're able to utilize what you're given and try to find a way to maximize that, I mean, the what we did while we were there is like a legacy of music that is so important to everybody. So it's like it all has, it's like we're the fucking pillars in that sound. You know what I mean? If you, so be it, whatever, however you want to call it. So it's like that part to what we do is important because it was part of a scene and part of an effort, which during that scene and effort, a lot of people got, I would say, adequate pushes and so on and so forth. So you know what I mean? It's like, it's been a learning process, and I'm thankful that we were able to learn from it and apply a lot of what we did learn in real time to our situations today and yesterday and hopefully tomorrow. You know what I mean? Because it's all about what you retain and what you take with you as you build.
Well, it's something that's, and I think I've said this when I've had you on the last 2 times to talk more Astronomicon centric things, but it's always been commendable that, I think a lot of people are afraid to take risks. I think the old saying is, high risk, high reward. But it's one of those things where I think at the end of the day, and maybe I even kind of pulled this from something you had said, but, not being afraid to gamble on yourself, to know when to go in all in on you. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, all that's going to benefit and reward is you. You're going to see the exact, reap what you sow kind of thing. And so it was interesting, at the time I last talked to you, you were getting ready to embark on that Warped Tour you guys did. And it was just so funny to be able to see you guys, I think for once, not that you were doubted yourselves, but I think you doubted whether other people would be willing to accept you at the time. And to see how
reservations, yeah, for sure.
And to see and literally hear, like, between other people being interviewed on various podcasts and so forth, like, I know the Every Time I Die dudes, like, loved going to see you guys. I know obviously the Ice Nine Kills people. And it's funny because I feel like had you not done that tour, a lot of this new record wouldn't have happened, I don't think. At least not now, or not how it sounds.
For sure. I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason as well. And it's all part of making those relationships. And networking that becomes your net worth in life. The people that you meet, the relationships that you create, the legacies that you build. is all going to be part of what you continue to do if this is what you do. And this is definitely what we do. So when I did talk to you, I remember that. And it was just like, it was more of a, you know, we have kept ourselves inside of a bubble for so long at that point in our career that we were like, you know, it's humanistic. Will we survive outside of the dome? Holy shit. Do you think it's possible? And it's like, you have to bet on yourself because no one's going to love you like you. No one believes you like you. So if you believe in yourself, others will look and others will see and be like, holy shit. And I think it was the people who really didn't know us or only knew a name that could finally put something with that name and be like, yeah, dude, these guys are shit, dude. This is amazing. Like, this is so not what I expected it to be. And I think it just adds to the longevity of what we do and the ability to continue to do what we do.
You know, now that I can kind of talk to you about the experience kind of past tense, you know, I know something that was not shocking to me in any capacity to hear this, but, you know, a lot of people were surprised at how well you guys did with merch, how well you guys did with a lot of the things on that tour. Did you find that whereas I know a lot of people probably looked at you as the outcast in the anomaly band, I almost feel like adversely you were able to bring in a different kind of culture into Warped Tour that hadn't really been seen since probably, I'm going to at least say 98, like one of the first Warped Tours when you had like Eminem on it and stuff like that. Some of the more kind of underground hip hop at the time. Did you notice that you guys were bringing in like a lot of your fans out in droves that maybe had never been to a Warped Tour or really ever experienced any of that?
We had the opportunity to meet a lot of people that we haven't seen for like ages. And the question that Paul and I would ask again and again, where did you think we went? Where did you think we went? You know what I mean? Like, oh, I haven't seen you since, you know, the Outer Space Tour. I haven't seen you since, oh, your album, you know, Most Tasteless was great or Green Book was great. And you're like, so many things have happened between this point in the conversation and where we are today. And you're like, you just want to ask, like, where did you think we went? Did you think we just stopped? Like, you know, I find myself going down rabbit holes, Googling things that I loved or used to love, or, you know, where did my everything, just to see what they do, like a where are they now kind of vibe. So like, that was my question to those people. But yeah, man, I feel that we brought out you're right, a different type of demographic to something that needed that. And it was, I think, kind of that fresh blood, so to speak, that was like in the crowd and just like enjoying other things. And it was cool because people who came there, like I came here to see you guys and now I love Motionless. Now I love Ice Nine. Like, dude, every time I die is the shit. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just like, that's so cool to me. Or vice versa. Came here to see them and holy fuck, where the fuck have you guys been all my life? And it was just like, it goes to show you that put in the right position, the different listeners that can be out there that could be attracted to what you do is infinite. You know what I mean? There's no possible, like, we've just been experiencing a little bit. I say a little bit because it's been a little bit, but of radio play in national radio market and just getting acceptance and people enjoying it and having that be a thing where people request the song on radio stations. And it's like a whole new world. It's something that I'm sure to, you know, artist A through Z, that's old hat to them. It's no big deal. But to someone who's been doing this so long and at some point was just like, you know, that's not for us. Again, outside of that dome, there's a whole nother world. You know what I mean? And to be welcomed into that or appreciated for the world we created with ICP, I think is cool as well. It's either one of the two. It's either welcomed into the new world or appreciated for the world that you created. One of the two. I appreciate both of them. And I think that's a lot of where I think a lot of the new people are like, man, this is amazing. You know what I mean? Because if you find us on like Envy or Rose Petal or something and go back and find a cavalcade of music, you're like, holy fuck, dude. You know, it's something for everyone, literally.
You know, it's, as you're kind of saying that, two questions kind of came to mind, and they're sort of hand in hand related. So I'll ask the first one. Mm-hmm. You know, you kind of mentioned that, you know, getting outside of your own bubble, your own world, and kind of, you know, people knowing sort of where you came from. You know, unfortunately, I think, you know, the Juggalo scene kind of gets a bad rap, no pun intended. But it's one of those where I think, you know, with, you know, a lot of the positive things, the philanthropic things that, you know, I know ICP and like a lot of those guys do, and even yourselves in continuing that do you feel like you had a harder climb because of the misrepresentation of the scene you came from, the world you came from, and the people that exist in it? Do you feel like that has been something you've had to kind of overcome? And I guess if the question doesn't quite make sense.
No, it makes sense.
Okay.
I want to try to answer it truthfully, but I think in order to answer it truthfully, you must understand that the world and the overview of them is a culmination of different groups. You know what I mean? And they are all blanketed under the title of Juggalo. So our message has remained the same. It's still about being an individual. We accept everybody like Christ. Be yourself. We want you to be happy. If you're alive and you're not being happy, then you're not getting your full value, bro. Sir,
Absolutely.
ma'am, you're not getting your full value, man. It's like you're entitled to the same happiness that everyone else is, whether you find that and to be that part of their life. It's like our message has remained the same. I think other people went off on different journeys. Let's just say, I think other people went off on different quests and were trying to find something they were looking for. And I think we've stayed the course in what we initially cut our path with. And I'm proud to say that we still support that to this day. I hope that's the answer. I hope that's the answer, goddammit. I don't know.
I mean, none of us know. I mean,
Fair,
I think the other thing too is, you know, you were talking about, you know, the first time like getting kind of like airplay. I think I've heard, I can't remember if it was Envy or not on Octane. I think got picked up by Octane. But I mean, you know, you talk about that being a new avenue or a new world for you. Mm-hmm. Is it interesting with this record specifically, and this is really kind of inside baseball, but I mean, we've kind of already been talking about it, right, where now maybe you're looking at your budget for the record and your advertising budget and now having to also now facilitate a radio plan for like, all right, we got to try to push this out to radio. We want to try to get this out here. We want to start, you know, getting maybe some ads in, you know, Revolver magazine or whatever. Like now you're looking at money or advertising avenues that previously you wouldn't have maybe even looked at.
In some senses, we have exercised most of those that you just named for the last, I want to say 2 or 3 releases back. Okay. So like, you know, Revelation and Generation Nightmare, stuff like that. A lot of those tactics have been implemented to those records as well. So it's not like it's something new. It's just different to see someone ask for the song, or you know what I mean, be just willing to play it. So it's like, I mean, we've been throwing, you know, like we'll service whatever, you know what I mean, but the fact that they choose to play it or pick it, or it's their choice. Like there's some DJs that just pick whatever they want and they play it, and we're just thankful. Like you pick the one you like, it's your radio station. I'm just thankful for the opportunity to be in their ear holes, you know what I mean. We like them all. We recorded them, you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't, you know, as far as that goes, but yeah, I don't, it's like, would that become something as we go forward? I guess so. If the parent company, as far as N Grooves, you know, wanted to make that I don't know, I guess you would say a staple, so to speak. It's right. Just something, it's something that we have a plan. We're not flying by the seat of our pants, but at the same time, we have a plan. And as we go forward, I like the idea that our plan can change with us, how we change. So it's a functioning thing that always kind of caters to what Paul and I and George and Mike are doing with what we're doing. So it's a good thing as far as where I sit.
Where did I don't necessarily know if business sense is the word, but where did that come from? Because it seems like you guys, collective, I'll just say you, it seems like you have done such a good job of making good business decisions from the jump. And it seems like I feel like something that's inherently in people. I don't think that's something you just naturally are like, oh, I guess I'm doing this thing and I should probably learn some of the business side of things. Like, have you always had a business mind?
I don't, you know, first of all, I want to give credit where credit's due. We surround ourselves with a lot of intelligent minds. We surround ourselves with a lot of like-minded people as well that understand the brand that Paul and I have built and want to see it flourish and go forward. So that trust value is really important. So it's not like we're all just doing it ourselves. But as far as Paul and I, we have been flea market kids since we were little. We would trade cards and comic books and toys and buy and sell and trade and all that stuff. And inside of that, there's a back and forth. It's a dance, so to speak. It's business. It teaches you business skills. It teaches you people skills. I think that's another thing to fall short on a lot of fucking people because of the internet and the inability to be in person. When people are in person, they don't know what to do. They look at their phone a lot because they just don't know how to people anymore. So that's one thing that I'm just being real. That's one thing that we as a people lost along the way. And I think that people who still know how to people hold theirself a certain way. And it is a business about it. You know what I mean? And I also think that knowing how to communicate is a big, big deal. Dude, seriously, that I can't say that more than anything. Having a good rap with people and understanding people, what they want out of it, having them understand what you want out of it, whatever it be. You getting your fucking house painted, you getting your fucking grass cut, or you cutting a record deal, like whatever it is, make sure you're transparent. I want you to understand this is what the fuck I want. This is what my guys want. And this is what you want. It's all about a communication level. And I think good people who do good business always seem to find that happy middle, that medium middle ground. And I think they continue to keep going forward. And once you do business with somebody, they obviously know how you do, or you're accustomed to them. They're accustomed to you. The relationship goes forward. Obviously, as productive the business goes, but it's super important, dude. It's like level 20 important to know and meet people, dude. Again, your net worth is your network, dude. Talk to people. The more people you know, the more conversations you have, the more you learn, the more you retain, and you have people to call on if you have a question in life.
I mean, it's kind of funny you say that because I feel like, a guest on your record, Spencer, for Mice 9 has done. I feel like he almost kind of parallels your career in a sense because, and this is kind of a local reference, but, here at the intersection in Grand Rapids, like I can remember that being headlining the Stash, which is like a 400 cap room. And that was what they would do for a while. If they got on bigger tours, they'd probably be a first of 4 or whatever. Like, and nothing changed. Like they didn't change anything that they did. But I think it just took a little bit for that band to catch on. Right time, right place. But I also think it was Spencer, in spite of, a lot of lineup changes and so forth, him staying the course, him guiding the direction, him surrounding himself with people who believed in what he was doing, what the band was doing. And then when they finally got a good break, he was able to take advantage of it. And having just seen them, the other day here, selling out the main room of the intersection, I'm like, man, like not that long ago, you guys weren't that band, but like now you are. The old songs, like people still know. And
it's the comeuppance, man.
Well, I think the other thing that's been interesting to me, and sorry to cut you off, is that he reinvested. Like you can tell that they've been reinvesting into their live shows. So when they finally got that opportunity to be a bigger band, they looked like one too. And I think that's something that you guys have seemingly done it really well as well, is always reinvesting back into yourselves to make whatever it is you do as big or as it can be.
For sure. Yeah. Again, I can't speak to their career and how it comes up, but from what I have followed, I can see, much like us, everything they do is better. It's bigger. It's bolder. Everything that they do is more professional, and you can just see it. You can feel it. It makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up because you feel the passion, and it comes through. And that's how you know it's magical what they're doing. And it's like, that's what's important for Ice Nine. Same with us too, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? It's like, it's the same thing. It's like you say, reinvest in yourself. It's like no one knows your brand like you. No one's gonna, in an ever changing every single day. Yesterday's stuff is old. This is the new stuff. You can't lock into shit like you used to. You know what I mean? My brother would say, rest on your laurels and shit like that. And it's like that. Those days are gone. It's what do you got today? What's happening today? And I think that that's how it's become. And that's how it's going to be a lot more of as we go to the future. But I love that people like Spencer, like our brand and others, you know what I mean, who do that, who reinvest into their band and take that experience to the next level and add that more professionalism on it, whether it be taking it to a new mastering house, whether it be, you know, like always upgrades, always come up. It's part of someone loving what they do. That's what I think. That's my opinion. I can't speak for them. That's my opinion. At least that's what it is on our end. When we want to get something cooler, you know what I mean? We want a better microphones, or we want a better microphone in the studio, or a new board. It's exciting to us because we're like, oh my God, it's going to sound so much better. I can't wait to fill in the blank, sing into that mic, record in that booth, you know, like whatever the case may be, because like a kid, you're still excited like Christmas morning, because if you have that excitement, then yeah, man, then you're doing the right thing.
It's funny, as you were saying that, I couldn't help but think of, like, you know, doing this podcast. Like, I've been doing it for 5 years, coming up like next month, over 300 episodes, talked to so many people that I never remotely thought I'd ever talk to, befriended like probably half of the people I have on the show, which is crazy. And it's one of those, like, right now, like, I have been going through a bit of a rebrand on my end, where like the logo I have, I think is cool. Unfortunately, I think it's a little too wild and out there. I don't think it works for what I want to do. So I had to kind of be like, all right, let's start thinking about a rebrand. Not entirely, but so like I'm going through a friend of mine.
First, yeah.
Yep. So like at this point, like we're going to kind of change the visuals up a little bit, keep the name kind of streamlined, make everything look cleaner. And like, I know the rebrand's going to cost me a bit of money, but it's like, as you were saying, like, you know, getting excited about like the new thing. Like, I told my friend who's doing it like what I want, but I was like, honestly, dude, it's Porter from Atreides. So I was like, dude, you do graphic design. You've redesigned your own band's stuff countless times to update it. You get what basically I'm trying to do. So like, you know me, you know the show. Just do what you think will be good.
Sure.
And I'm sure I'll love it. But like, it's stupid that like in my head, I'm like, something as dumb as like when I get the new layout for what's around us, like I can't wait to see what that looks like. And I'm like, it's just a fucking graphic. That's all it is. It's not even something I can literally hold in my hands, but like, it's a
fresh step. It's a new vibe. It's a new pair of shoes. It's a new sweatshirt. When you put it on, you feel new. You feel clean. You feel crispy. You're like, oh, I'm ready for this shit, because it's a new step, man. It's therapeutic in some senses too, man, because it's like it keeps your vision sharp. It keeps you going, and it makes, you know, it's all for good things. God damn it.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's one of those where it's crazy because someone's like, well, what's wrong with the one you have? And I'm like, I mean, nothing. But like, I've had it for a couple of years. Like, it's time to change. Like, update it, do something different. But it's weird how I look at, because it's, you know, typically talking to musicians and so forth. It's like you guys constantly do it. Like, you know, something I've been really fascinated with the concept of is, you know, like you just released this record like 18 days ago. So like 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks. So at this point, it's new to us. Potentially, you have been working on this for maybe a year and a half in some capacity, potentially. So, so the thing that becomes interesting to think about is we're perpetually a 2-year cycle away from the experiences that you're currently having. Like, whatever's happening to you now is informing what you're already starting to work on that we won't hear for another 2 years. So we're constantly playing catch up to you as creatives. And I don't think a lot of people stop and think about that. And how impactful these records can be. Like when you're like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing. And it means so much to me. And you're like, I mean, that's really great. That shit I went through 2 years ago.
Wait till you hear the new shit. Yeah, no,
right.
It's it can be frustrating too, because you want to, you know, spill the beans, so to speak, or explain something that's currently happening in your world. But you know that's just going to take away the heat and the entertainment value of people who are experiencing. You're very right. It's very true. And that's crazy, though. There's not many people pay attention to that. That's very good action.
Well, I think doing this podcast has made me realize it, because, you know, I have friends of mine, and it's weird and it still trips me out. Someone will be like, either quote something I said or the guest said or whatever. And in some instances, you know, they're catching up to past episodes. And I'm like, the fuck are you talking about? And they're like, oh, this episode you did. And I'm like, that was 3 years ago, dude. And like, you know, it's hard for me to remember the exact conversation. I mean, shit,
What
sometimes like you and I are doing this right now. I'll think about it for a couple of days. This episode's probably not coming out for like a month or so. So like by the time I have to do the intros and so forth for it to kind of keep it somewhat in current time,
Sure.
I have to then remember what I was excited about or something we talked about that was cool.
I got you.
And to
That's
me,
crazy.
that's when I really started noticing that I was like, this is in a very small example exactly what it's like for you all to create music in the moment, not release it for a while, and then kind of not necessarily have to get re-excited about it, but remember why you were excited about what you created, and then talk about
Or try
it.
to go back, or try to go back and find that tone or that mindset when doing that song. Or a lot of times, what is awesome about some of the songs is that they are so special that it's just like putting on, putting it on like armor or something, so to speak, or like makeup or something. Like it just goes on and you're like, that's it. This is how this has to be. It's like some of them are like that. Other ones, where you start going, you talk about 20 years of music and you're going back and, people are like, oh man, why don't you ever do the third verse to Secondhand Smoke? And you're just like, we don't listen to the third verses to much of stuff, because it gives you an opportunity to just skip through and have a bunch more other song options, I suppose.
Man, so RIP DMX, you can sort of see the bottom of the poster right here from when I saw him at 20 Monroe. I guess I could just do this.
Yes.
So he celebrated 20 years. It's Dark and Hot as Hell. And stupid me, because I come from the rock and metal world, I thought he was performing the whole record in its entirety because that's what we've been conditioned to. So I'm listening to that record and I'm like, I mean, it's an okay record, but there's not like the bangers on it like he would eventually do on like the rest of his career. Rough Riders Anthem is like essentially the second track. So I'm like, you're going to play like your hottest fucking song right away. Like, dude, people are probably going to fucking leave. So then, I go to the show and it's actually just a greatest hit set. So it was kind of cool. But, it was interesting is after he passed, everyone, was playing all these different DMX songs, and I'm blanking on the song now. But man, people, I think, really rediscovered, and it would be funny if I could remember what song it was. But, everyone relearned that one of their favorite songs, the first verse, is just homophobic as shit. And you're like, and everyone's like, dude, I don't remember these lyrics being this. And it's like, yeah, they always were, man.
Google those? No, God, yeah.
And so it's funny that when people sometimes will forget things. So when some people are like, oh, it never got better, then, like, why don't you do that third verse? And you're like, well, I mean, at the time, that's who I was. Again, snapshot of who I was at the time. I may not be that person anymore. I may not believe that. I mean, you look at a band like Paramore, like they don't do Misery business anymore because they, Haley doesn't agree with the lyrical content of it anymore and doesn't want to perpetuate like some of that. So it's like
interesting.
I think
very interesting. I mean, in our case, it's that there are so many songs to pick from. If we do the first two verses, it's usually a Paul and I, or a Paul then me, or me or Paul or something. We can do a medley or more of them in there. So a lot of the third verses fall victim to just never getting performed, and it's just been their way since forever. And it's just a running joke between Paul and I about how we never get to those third verses, because at that point, like how you said, in our mind, we're over this song and it's on the next song. And people are like, wait a minute, I was just gonna ride that to the end, and you're like, no, we're gonna rock the dead now. It's like it's just how when we devise the show tape and how we set things up, sometimes we segment songs or we make our own mixtape or show tape, set tape, so to speak. So we have fun in crafting that, but it's just it's a running joke between us that we don't ever put the third verses on. But that is unfortunate that that time, people reflect the time and time changes, and then you go back to it and it's like taken out of context, or it's added additional context to it because, and it's like, I get it, but yeah, I mean, it's part of the body of their work, I guess, take it for what it is. And I don't know, I guess look deeper into the people if it concerns you that much. Like see what's really happening at the root of that song. I don't know what else to say. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, I think like for me, that's always been one of the interesting things sort of about hip hop as kind of a whole. I mean, the roots of it really kind of were always about kind of a message, kind of, I'll almost say like same with like the punk movement, like of not feeling like you had a voice, kind of overcoming your oppressors or whatever. And so like, that's kind of where the roots of where it kind of started from, but then obviously became more of like party music as well. And so it's always been interesting to kind of see this weird duality, especially with most of the men in hip hop, where, you got an artist like, Tupac, where, have a song like I Get Around, but then he's got a song like Dear Mama or Brenda's Got a Baby. And you're like, man, and like some of those are like on the first fucking records he's putting out. And you're like, all right, this dude's more than this. It's still firmly rooted in having a message.
Because I believe that those are people that found their own flavor of Tupac. And why he's diverse is he had enough flavors to attract all types of different people that all culminated under the same banner that they all love Tupac, which is great, because to some people that was his Get Around song, and to some people it's about, love, and it's like the true like artist that knows how to be able to cover many topics and do it with their own flair. I think that's the mark of a true performer, true artist, true songwriter, true performer. I think so.
Absolutely. I think that's what's always kind of gravitated me toward hip hop and so forth, and R&B is just, I mean, even still, like, I got goosebumps yesterday. I saw that apparently the Outkast were hanging out together, because I guess Big Boy's kid goes to Oregon or whatever or plays on the football team or something. I don't know. But the two of them were hanging out, and I'm like, yo, shit, that's like the first time since y'all like went on this weird hiatus thing that I think I've seen you two together in the same fucking place. I mean, the fucking Fugees just got back together and announced a reunion tour, so they got to be the next ones.
Wow. I mean, yeah, and again, it's like, I think that with stuff like that, some people like to go out on top and just let it be that way, and then I had no idea about the Fugees, but it makes sense to me, because it's just like you get people that still crave for a time that's gone, or music that's gone, because this new music ain't their music. This ain't their cup of tea. They still bumping that. So like to go see that live, and they're back, and it's like it's magical, man. It's like you want to be a part of that history making moment. Like, they're back. Holy shit.
Is it weird to know that you basically are now, with the tenure of your career, that you provide that for people?
I think it's cool. I think it's cool to at some point know that you have that you have value to people, that people found some value in the body of your work, or found something in it, whether it be armor, a crutch, medicine, whatever it is, something to get them through their day. I'm honored to be anything for anybody. That's awesome, because so many artists and so many like performers and stuff like that were that for me. So to be that, or to be a part of that with Paul for someone else, I mean, that's awesome. That's like one of the unsung perks that not a lot of people talk about, because I guess it's not cool, because you can't wear that around a necklace, or you can't, So I'll just go like that and throw out love. For real though. I mean, I'm being serious though, because it's like a lot of that. It's like people condition themselves to a certain type of how things are, and I think that things are how you make them.
I think something that's been really kind of I always say interesting, because I just can never figure out another fucking adjective that works as well. But something that I've always been kind of interested in with you specifically is just, like I said kind of earlier, like just, you're so diverse in all the things you present. And I love that you are unapologetically yourself. And something that, I feel like we don't see a lot of people doing anymore. And I feel like you're kind of, you don't do it often, but when you do, it is always kind of showcases a completely different side of you. Is like, your kid celebrated his first day of school the other day, or a couple of weeks ago, I think at this point. And, that's not necessarily a side that like we get to see of you, at least online.
Sure.
But when you do it, it was kind of like one of those where I'm like, that's kind of cool, because like it's another side of you that we don't typically get to see, but I think also kind of showcases more of a fuller picture of who you are as a person. So I don't know, like I know why people don't fucking post like in your
for sure.
why you don't post a whole shitload about your kids and your family, but I do appreciate, like, I as a person appreciate getting to see more of the human side of you versus the entertainer side of you.
I appreciate that. No, that's very fresh. We have like made a pact with ourselves, Paul and I, a long time ago, that so much of us is for everybody. Something has to be for us. So that was the conscious decision. But yeah, no, it's cool because I see other people doing those things, and sometimes I'm like, I want to do that. I'm human. I'm doing that. It's part of who we are, man. Life is too short not to live.
Adversely, you know, as you just kind of said, like keeping a piece for yourself, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but it's kind of been something that's been somewhat omnipresent over the last 8 months or so on the podcast since I started going through it myself. But, you know, I'm not saying, you know, you and Paul as Twiztid are not who you are. It's I think in wrestling terms, it's your persona cranked up to 11 and just kind of a little bit more of a character versus you as a person. And with a lot of the other things that you have to do, you know, running the business side of things and all those things, have you ever had to like go to therapy possibly to kind of find more of yourself, to be able to learn to compartmentalize yourself and keep that piece of you for you and your family, and that's only for you guys? Like, I know you said you made a pact, but was there a moment maybe that made you need to lead up to that or something?
No, I mean, you know, we always just like the way that we were with the vibe that we were putting out there. It was a family vibe. We knew that people would bring their families to the show. It was just something that we just made that decision that would be for us. And as far as, I don't want to answer the question as far as the therapy stuff, because I won't say yes or no, because people who need help should get help. And I strongly encourage those who need it to get it. But I will say something that is very true is I find therapy in a lot of our songs. It's therapeutic to me to be able to vent and speak my mind and to get things out of my head and get them on paper, to get things that are circling in my head, or a way that I feel some way about something, and I'm going to take that negativity and turn it into an amazing song that hopefully will resonate for someone else. I find therapy in that kind of shit. And for the most part, it works for me and still does, thankfully so. So it's like when I hear people find a song that might have been something that was helping me and it helps them, it's the greatest shit ever. You know what I mean? It's important because that means that it does work. Even if for one person, because that would be two, because it worked for me. So two is better than one. Yes.
Just one of those things, like I said, like having gone to therapy myself, like for sure. Almost more of a, for me, it was kind of more of the being more of an empath and people kind of unburdening a lot of shit on me. And it was just like, what do I do with this? Like, how can I
for sure
handle my own shit while I'm also trying to handle somebody else's as well? And so that's kind of what made me seek it out. I mean, I think a lot of people probably had to start internalizing during this last 2 years, but it's one of those where when I think about, go ahead.
I was just going to say, being left alone in this whole trying times and trapped inside the house, and you have a lot of people who are having mental issues or going through a crisis in their own life. And, you know, sometimes the best thing you can do is be an ear, listen to those people, let them vent, let them get it off their chest, because sometimes essentially that's all anybody wants to be, is just heard. So that's super duper important. But yeah, to be able to be a voice for somebody, or perhaps you put on a song and those lyrics hit for you. That's your life. We're singing about you. That's what it's all about. You know what I mean? It's like, in some strange ways, it'll find its way to you. It's always been that way. So I believe in it.
Absolutely. You know, I kind of one of the last few questions for you, or topics, but
sure.
You started working with a good friend of mine. I actually just saw him last night, Chad Nicefield.
Yeah.
How has it been working with him, and how did that relationship kind of start? Because it's been weird to see him getting his hands into a lot of different things since, you know, his band Wilson kind of called it a day.
Him and George, my manager, our friends, and we kicked around, and I see him places, and we first started and we were doing a couple tracks, and he was like, we were ping-ponging ideas back and forth with each other, and then lo and behold, he's like the executive producer on the video, and I'm just like, I love this. Live, dude. Like, get your hands in and like be hands-on. Like get in there and make what you want out of life, dude. Again, like, I can't say it enough. It's too short, and for people that it's over for, think of all the things they could have done. So if you have the opportunity to do those things and you use any of the fucking excuses that people go to, whatever, it's like, don't let the excuses hold you back. Make excuses of why you should.
Yeah, he's definitely one. Him and I go, like, he was actually.
I love the grind, dude. I respect the hustle. I love
dude,
it.
He was one of the first people I booked Wilson in, actually the house I'm still in right now where I'm recording this. They played in my basement, and it was funny because when they got done, because he obviously was booking at Crowfoot, and he goes, you ran this show better than some venues I've been to. Like, the way you had people load into your other, like, utility room. So then the band that's done gets access to the stairs. The other bands come in behind them. Like, you ran this better than a lot of shows I've literally seen at, like, legit venues with quote unquote professionals. Why don't you do this in another, like, on that level? And I go, I don't know how. And then he goes, all right, next show you want to do, email me. Tell me where you think you would like it to go, where you think it'll do well. I'll get you connected and I'll get you on your way. And that's like how I started booking shows at, like, some of our, like, still can't believe it, like the Intersection and, Pyramid Scheme and stuff like that.
Communication led to a relationship, which led to you taking a gamble on yourself, which again brought about, I don't want to say a side hustle, maybe a permanent hustle, but a new skill set to your repertoire, man. That's all good shit. That's a whole fucking domino effect of some great shit, because you took the time to meet people, and your impression on those people were that dope that they remembered you and was like, hold on a minute, why don't you do, like, when someone pulls you to the side and says that kind of shit, you're doing something right. You're doing something special that they take notice to, because people don't do that all the time. So the fact that did happen, which, by the way, he's a great guy and he would notice. He's a stickler for detail. He would notice, and it just speaks volumes to obviously what a great job you were doing, and more importantly, how he took notice and wanted to let you know that. It's just it's all good shit, man. Seriously, it's all about that.
But yeah, so I knowing, like, something I always talk about on the show is just, when people pivot. So, like, some people might wallow and be like, oh, my band's not a thing anymore and I don't get to tour or whatever. We did a chat and it was one of those where, we talked about the end of the band and got really real and serious about it. But it's been great to see him find a new pivot and find a new way in an industry that he's been working in for so long, where it's like, okay, touring doesn't exist, can't book shows. All right, my band doesn't exist, not doing that. What can I do? Okay, well, in my time of being in Wilson, I got really into making videos. In my time of being in my band, I took more notice of producing and working on, like, being a behind the scenes person and all those kind of things. So it's one of those where, I mean, he's even in the video for Envy. So it was one of those where it's like, I love giving kind of the spotlight to something like that, where it's like, he may be, to most people that would listen to this that are your fans, people probably don't know who he is or what he's done. But I think it's good to shine a spotlight on something like that. Talk about it for a minute from your perspective and mine, to be like, here's a dude that fucking has facilitated a lot of things for not only himself, but for you, myself, even going back in the different facets I've done in this industry myself. And I always like championing people like that, and it just kind of being like, you may not be the main focal point, but that doesn't mean you can't help people who are the focal point help achieve what they're looking for. So I just like talking about people like that.
The whole pandemic caused people to think fast on their feet, and it brought out the best in a lot of people. We found a work ethic in us that we hadn't seen in forever, and it just, to realize what you provide to a person, and to be that, knowing that people now are going to be trapped in the house. You know what I mean? They need entertainment. You know what I mean? It's on you. It's your job. You took this oath. This is what you do. So get after it. Let's do it. You know what I mean? So it's like, and in his situation, he's, like you said, the pivot. He was like, man, he took advantage of what was in front of him and ran with it and wore those hats in order to stay in the business and do what he does. And he's very good at what he does. And I think it's cool to watch him grow and become other things on his journey of where he'll end up.
Absolutely.
Because I don't know where the hell he'll end up. Who knows? With him, you do not know, and I love that. And that's awesome. So it'll be fun for us to all watch how it evolves.
Well, I think that's a good place to wrap up, because I think that encapsulates, this new record, which I know we didn't talk specifically about the new record, but I feel like a lot of what we've talked about is correlated to the record. Like I said, it's a snapshot, but we've talked about, traversing different fields, kind of pivoting as we just kind of were, and things happening that lead you to where you are now. And I feel like that's a great example of what Unlikely Prescription is sonically for you guys. It's a new avenue, a new lane, but really for a lot of us that have been paying attention to your career, you've always kind of had pieces of this. This is just you kind of fully immersing yourselves into it and kind of showcasing to the rest of the world, maybe who wouldn't have given you, sadly, the time of day because of how it was presented.
It's true.
Actually,
you hear it the most. You hear it the most in as we were coming up with Freak Show. Like that was the first time around when we were starting to get like acceptance from like Circus Magazine and Hit Parader and stuff like that. And you just saw the love and the effect, and how being a part of that greater whole had an effect on what you were doing. And again, it's just, it's been something that's been, like you said, throughout our career, and it's just different and fun at the same time to be able to switch it up so late in the career and still have fun with it and still keep people on their toes, still come with stuff that makes everybody excited and want to listen to more. And I love that. You know what I mean? And if for some reason it falls on deaf ears, we still do what we do, and we have more of that coming for you too. We have a brand new record coming out in Halloween for the month of October, and that'll be fun. And you can find some of your old school vibes for those, because we know, just like when we were talking about with the Tupac, make songs for everybody. We appreciate everyone's time, and we appreciate everyone's time that they've given us throughout our career. So we want to make sure that we speak to all of that when we consider what we do as we go forward.
I have kind of a weird question, and potentially you're going to laugh at how sort of naive it is.
Oh, shit.
But something that I noticed on listening to the record, there's not a whole lot of swearing on the record. Was it hard to break yourselves of maybe falling into that habit?
No. It seemed like when you look at it from the greater whole, it's a deterrent in a lot of things that you want to do. So if you have a target and you have the perfect gun and the perfect bullet and you shoot at your target, in theory, you hit the target. It's like we didn't want to make the sloppy bullet for the gun. It's like.
So that's my conversation with Jamie Madrox, again, of Twiztid. Again, their newest album, Unlikely Prescription, is out now. It's more of a rock-based record. I think you're really going to like it. Really strong fucking hooks. Not saying they didn't have good hooks on their old material, but it's just wild. Like, sometimes you wonder if someone's going to struggle when they kind of play around in a different genre a little bit, if it's going to be a little bit harder for them to find their way to writing good hooks and stuff like that. But, very much like business, the ones that are dedicated to their craft are going to find a way to be successful no matter what it is they do. And this is a shining example of these guys, having success in a slightly different medium, something they've kind of fucked with for a little while, but kind of going full down the road of kind of rock. And I mean, goddamn, some of the guests they have on this record, just so fucking good. But it's one of those where, again, I just walked away knowing that I was going to enjoy this conversation. It was really great also getting to just talk to Jamie, not having to kind of plug Astronomicon, which we kind of did in the beginning anyway, but was more like I didn't need to focus it to sell this thing. I just got to talk to this person I've wanted to have this conversation with for a while. It just, unfortunately, that wasn't why he was on the show, so this was the opportunity I finally was waiting for. All of that to say, too, I want to give a shout out to my friend Chad, who we talked about at the end, formerly of Wilson. You probably have heard him on this show. I love that dude to death, and I will always champion him. And I love talking about, again, successful people. I love talking about things that people may not see people doing. And Chad, what he does now is very much a behind the scenes kind of a person. And I just want to champion in what he does. And also the other point of that is sometimes we talk about pivoting quite a bit on this show. And it's one of those where I feel like the better thing to do is sometimes talk about these people in the industry and these things they do that maybe you don't see or don't get the accolades that everyone else does, but it can be your entry point into the industry and the business. Every opportunity you have to network with someone can open up a new door down the road, and you just never fucking know. My time doing this podcast, booking shows, being in a band, whatever one I was, it's funny how all of those relationships that I've maintained have informed and helped myself really in different capacities, but also have allowed me to help other people and put certain people in places to be, furthering their own careers and so forth. So, love Chad. Hope, dude's doing really well with the holidays and all that kind of stuff coming up. He did a shitload of work on this Twiztid album and so many other things that are just happening behind the scenes. So proud of that dude, proud of the Twiztid dudes. And to kind of wrap this up, if you want to keep up with Twiztid, it's actually really simple. You can just go to twiztid.com. That is the landing page for everything, as it usually is for everybody else. Everything is in the show notes as well. If you just want to follow them on Facebook, it's at facebook.com/Twiztid. If you'd like to follow them on Instagram, it's official Twiztid. Jamie can be found at pops_and_vintage. And on Twitter, you can find the band at Tweet Me So Hard, still one of my favorite Twitter handles. Again, if you would like to keep up with this podcast, just go to brewspeakpod.com. That is a landing page for everything. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/brewspeakpod. Everything you want to know is all over there as well. If you want to email us, brewtallyspeaking@gmail.com. Going to keep this one short, and we are going to wrap up this episode as we always do with a lot of gratitude for our sponsors. So thanks to Rockabilia, thanks to On Point Pomade, and thanks to The Bean Bastard. And we are going to get out of here, and we will talk to you all next week, where our episode's guest is Matt Musty, drummer for Train. Talk to you then.
Sucked. Oh, that fucking sucked. Shao Kahn, what'd you think?
That was pathetic.
Yeah. Coach, what'd you think?
Fucking embarrassing!
Okay. I mean, I knew it was gonna fucking suck, but I think those guys were a little rude. Austin Powers?
How about new?
Okay, I thought we were going to get the Austin Powers vote. We did not. John, use that for your podcast. It fucking sucks. But you knew what you were getting into. It will result in less listens. You're going to see a decline in listeners if you start the show with that. You're going to see 30 seconds in, the number will plummet. And I will be there at the bottom of the plummet saying, I fucking told you, don't use this fucking riff. It sucks.